I think it's a good thing. The speakers stay in place.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
I probably don't need to remind you, although the news cycle has been dominated by the move of a basketball coach, not necessarily the news on the 1st District congressional seat. That was kind of put to the back burner by Ed Cooley saying, see ya for Georgetown, which is something that we will talk about in depth next week. Right now, there's just, as we record our broadcast on Thursday afternoon for you on Friday on Fox and on CW 10 o'clock on Sunday and Channel 12 on Sunday after 11:30 news. See, I got it all. It's just, everyone's just kind of catching up to the story, and Kim English, the Georgetown coach, I'm sorry, the George Mason coach being named the PC coach. But, you know, I'm nothing but a dumb jock, and I love that stuff. So we'll get to that next week. In the meantime, it is a burning conversation for those who care about the country, the district, the state, the world, that we have a vacancy coming soon in the 1st District. And here was the headline when Congressman Cicilline decided that he was going to move to the Rhode Island Foundation to run that facility, and he reflected on it at the Channel 12 studios.
I think I can help bring it to the next level and have an even greater impact than it's already had on things that I really care about and I know that are important to Rhode Islanders. So I'm going to miss lots of things about the job in Washington, lots of great friendships and many of the important issues I was working on, but I'm really excited about what I'm going to be able to do here in Rhode Island and be able to see kind of very clearly the work and the impact of the work, much more like when I was mayor.
Joe Shekarchi was rumored to be one of the lead candidates. In fact, there's no doubt in my mind he would have been the lead candidate for that position. But he will remain the state representative from Warwick and the Speaker of the House. Good evening, sir. Great to see you.
Always a pleasure to be on it. Great to see you too, Dan.
You're blue chip in this category, but I'm glad that you didn't cash it in. I'm just getting that up front.
Thank you.
Talk to me. What was it all about?
It was a very personal decision. It was not a political decision. Personally, it was just, it wasn't there for me. I did 2 analyses. I did a political analysis, and every one of those factors said run. You have strong support within the district. You grew up in the district. I went to Mount St. Charles. I lived in Lincoln. I had support from elected officials, some friends of yours and mine that we know about. I've had strong support with my colleagues in the 1st District. I had the financial capability. I thought I would get union support. I didn't think getting the party endorsement was any problem. All of those things said yes, yes, and the biggest political decision said if you run and you lose, you're still the Speaker. That doesn't happen. You don't get that chance in this job. I think going back to 1800, no other Speaker has left office to go to a higher office. Very unusual, and I had to stop and pause and think about it. But in the end, I also went through a personal decision. One, I'm very close to my dad. He's not in the best of health. He's 97 years old, and I enjoy spending time with him, and that would change if I were in Washington 12 to 15 days a month. Second, I have a pretty good job where I am now that affords me a lot of ability to make impact. I'm working very strongly on a lot of bills this session. We always have an active session, but particularly my housing package. And I also had a great opportunity. I spoke with Jack Reed, who was a political mentor, somebody I have a tremendous amount of respect. And he never told me to run, and Jack never told me not to run. What Jack said to me is, this is how it is in Washington when you're a member of the minority party, and this is how it is today. And that picture really didn't appeal to me because I'm a very results-oriented guy. I want to be judged on what I've accomplished and what I've done. And I don't think I would be anywhere near as effective in Congress as it would be. And then I have a law practice that I worked hard and built it up over 30 years, and it pays a pretty good living for me. And I'd have to close the door on that and move to D.C. for a decent salary of $170,000. But really in D.C., you're going to spend $5,000 to $6,000 a month for an apartment, or you're going to have to buy someplace for $1 million. And $1 million isn't $1 million in Rhode Island. $1 million is just like a regular home. All of those things kind of weigh down the personal side of the equation. And at the end of the day, if you don't have that desire and you don't have 100% inside of you to go, that I decided it wasn't the right decision. And let me just tell you this. I still have some regrets. I don't hide that to anybody who knows me. But I also know myself, and that if I had announced and I was a candidate, I still have probably regrets about running. So I was have regrets either way. And that's the truth.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Next week, we'll, I mean, that was as thorough an answer as I could expect, but it does reflect the seriousness of your contemplation and almost a memory of your plus and minus notes that you took. I mean, it's literally almost an SAT test on why you didn't run for this office and who can quarrel with it. You know, one of the things that resonates from your answer is that while, at least in the old days, whatever they were, you know, Congress was a high honor.
It was.
It still ought to be, but all it does is take a little look under the hood to see that it's not all glamour. To your point, you know, I've known a couple, met a couple, and read about more rookie Congress people who sometimes sleep in their office. It's hard. You know, all of a sudden, sometimes you're the dog that caught the truck, right? Because it's like I win the race, and now I got to live down there. Rhode Island's a short hop on Southwest, but if you're from somewhere else in the country, and you got to figure out how to live down there.
California, Texas, Hawaii, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. We're fortunate. It's a 1-hour flight, American Southwest, as you said, and you know, 9-hour car drive or train to get down there. There are many ways to go back and forth, but it's expected in Rhode Island when you're the congressman that you come home every weekend and campaign. So it would have been a perpetual campaign cycle for the next 3 years for me.
Come home every weekend and campaign, or come home every weekend and do your job?
Well, campaigning is if you do your job well, you're campaigning for re-election.
Well, there's a serious truth to that, especially when the terms are just 2 years. It's pretty understood amongst those who know, and not much understood amongst those who don't, that Congress people spend a few days a week around the clock raising money, literally leaving the Capitol, going to a political office, picking up the phone, checking in, raising money. It's a perpetual exercise, right?
Constantly. It's not easy. People don't realize that you also really don't get along in D.C. You can be friends with Republicans, probably after hours, but when you're doing your day job, the Republicans don't want to be friends with you because if they are, they're free. Even if they're good people, they want to be. Their Freedom Caucus will be against you. And the same thing if you're Democrat. Your own party sometimes gets mad for being bipartisan, and that's not me. I want to work across the aisle. I want to work with the moderates, the conservatives, the progressives, the Republicans. That's the way I've always been. That's the way I know how to get things done. And I don't know if I would be effective in D.C.
Right.
I really don't.
Well, there's a quality of life that goes along with your leadership here that you're alluding to, which we'll talk about in the next segment. Let me tell you what's bugging me about Congressman Cicilline's decision. It's not as much that he decided to advance his life in his mind and to work the Rhode Island Foundation, which is our largest philanthropic organization and has done tremendous work in the community. It's the timing just after an election. But worse yet, he's sitting on the seat. Now, I don't know what's going on in this political community and this journalistic community that I seem to be one of the lonely voices saying, okay, we accept your decision. Get the hell out now. Get out. We could have had a primary in May and a general election in June. Now, we're pushing this thing back because he doesn't want to leave until the end of May, seamless with his foundation job on June 1st. So we're not going to get a primary until late August or September and a general until October or November. That will push back this perpetual running for the candidate who wins. It leaves us without representation for a longer period of time. Aren't you as disturbed as I am about this?
Not really. And I'll being honest with you. You put me on your show, give me my honest answer.
Believe me, I teed that up knowing where it was going.
No, because first of all, his office remains open. His office remains open.
Well, that's my point. His office remains open. He doesn't have to be there. The
staff.
The staffing is supervised by the speaker anyway, so you can go ahead and go and get this party started and figure this thing out.
So that's really a question that Congressman Cicilline should answer to you, if that's your burning question. But what I will tell you,
I can't find him.
Well, what I will tell you is that it's even a short runway in what he said. Now, I'm not a candidate. We made that clear from the beginning of this. But if you're one of the candidates who've announced, you need time. No one's ready to run. And it gives an extra advantage to a candidate like myself or to Helena Fuchs. So both of us are not running.
The big ticket people.
Sure.
I understand.
So you want to have
I think that's bunk. I think the great thing about you and me is that we talk freely to each other. I think that's bunk. I don't think that 3-month difference is that big a deal. That kind of decision to leave the term in the short beginning of the term is designed for someone who's prepared anyway. So anyway.
Look, if I were a candidate, I'd love it. If I agree with you 100% if I was a candidate, because I would have a self-interest, but I'm not a candidate.
Right.
So the point is, I can see your point of view. I can disagree with it because for the most part, Congress is on recess in the summertime. There's not a lot going on in Washington from June to September.
Which would be nice to have somebody who's not. So, okay, it's on recess in the summertime, and Rhode Island's on recess for the rest of the year, because we won't elect anybody till the middle of fall. That's my point.
Fair enough.
And I just think it's a bad way to do business. But anyway, I am relieved for the state that Joe is going to stay as the Speaker of the House. We'll talk about that job, that tiny little job, when we come back. Yeah, so I guess the lead candidate is Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. Scorebook here is such that Sandra Cano is also running. She's a state senator, and another young man whose actual name escapes me, to be honest with you. I read about it yesterday afternoon, who's done some work for Commerce. Looming is the mayor of Pawtucket, Don Grebian, to run for the 1st District, and there's some other state senate / municipal leader types that are contemplating this, and to the Speaker's argument, have a little bit of time to decide as to whether they're going to get in. Let me ask you another perfunctory question. We can come off that screen anytime you want to. Thanks. You going to weigh in on this race at all?
We'll see. It's an evolving field on that. I mean, I have 2 representatives who are very interested. One has actually filed papers, Nathan Beer, to be a candidate, and then also my chairman Marvin Abney has expressed an interest in recently as yesterday.
He's a quality guy.
He's a quality guy. He has some substantial campaign funds, and he's got a very good handle on the budget. He gets a good profile. He has a great story to tell. I would not hesitate to support Marvin if he actually gets in the race.
He'd be a blow to you.
He would be a significant blow to the House.
He runs finance, folks, so you understand. He runs the finance committee in the House. And
does a very good job.
He's a veteran at it, understands the budget pretty well.
Yes, and he also is a veteran, a military veteran. He's got a strong background, and he'd be a quality candidate if he decided to make the run. Nathan B. has got a very compelling personal story, how he escaped, persecution in a war-torn country and came here, became a teacher, became a state representative. Both of those are quality state reps, and they have a very good chance, just as anyone else.
And, a very good chance is diplomacy. Look, to my point, it would have been nice to see a news cycle that was hyper-focused on it. Now we're going to see a news cycle that announcements are made and the summer comes, and we know low turnouts are the result of special elections. So those who are situated, who have built-in constituencies, built-in organization, built-in ways to raise and execute the money that they raise.
We call them boots on the ground.
Right. So Sabina Matos and her constituent following in Providence is going to have a significant role. Sabina Matos is probably impacted by Sandra Cano as 2 Latina candidates. Don Grebian, though, shares that geography with Sandra Cano in Pawtucket, but has a substantial loyal following and has, I think, done a nice job as the mayor of Pawtucket. I think those are the people that are probably going to. Marvin Abney is a smart, quality guy, but it's going to be a slog to get name recognition in Cumberland, for instance.
But last time I checked, he has a very substantial war chest, and I wouldn't estimate Marvin Abney.
Which, by the way, has to be transferred, correct?
Yes.
So is that perfunctory?
No, there's a process to go through. Seth Magaziner did a very good job, very legally, properly transfer the bulk of his money from his state account to a federal account. There's a federal process you have to follow. And there are people who assist in that process. In course of about 4 to 6 weeks, Seth Magazine had transferred his almost entire campaign from his state account to a federal account.
It's just so you understand, folks, you can't spend your state money on a federal race and vice versa, but these days it's lickety split. All right, so you may or may not weigh in depending on how the field folds out.
Exactly.
Here, correct? Mm-hmm. All right, when we come back, we will, I promise, talk about that job he has and a little bit of a distraction this week as well. Stay with us.
In my thinking about bills, right, bills that I want to present, do I have to take into account, for instance, religion? Do I have to take into account how it affects Satanists in Rhode Island? Or do I have to take into account with sexual orientation, how it affects pedophiles in Rhode Island? Anything like that?
Well, first, I want to point out that pedophile is not a sexual orientation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So my equity right now is pointing out that that was really offensive.
Oh, I didn't mean to. Are you a pedophile? I'm sorry.
Very unfortunate situation.
Oh, look, it makes for talk radio fodder. And there are times when I look at something like that, I say, I'm not getting into it. But for the last couple of days on the radio, this is Thursday, I spent an inordinate amount of time talking about this because there is a base of constituents that has either been lingering or cultivated, I'm not sure which, over the last decade, that finds that to be no problem, that finds that to be a pushback against political correctness or this new thing of wokeness, that thinks that, plain speak is okay. Which I think has buoyed Representative Robert Quattrocchi into the notion that he can actually only half apologize for it. So, look, there are big things going on in the state, and we should touch base on it for a few minutes, but this distraction this week puts you in a place where it seems that from an administrative point of view, the Speaker of the House is responsible for decorum at his discretion.
That's correct.
Are you sanctioning the representative or working on a process to do so?
I'm currently going through an evaluation process with the House Minority Leader, Representative Kislak, and specifically the chairman of the committee. And I will, whatever decision I make, if any, in terms of action, will be measured and fair.
I believe that. I don't know what it is. You take them off the committee. You articulate a resolution of embarrassments. You got to do something. You can't throw the guy out. You can't suspend him. You're not the school principal. I mean, there's also you're limited. In what
there are some weeks where Congress looked better than others. This is one of them.
Right. Do you have a thought process though about why this matters?
It matters because
I got my own speech on it.
Sure,
I'd rather
I know.
hear yours.
The effect of the words were very hurtful to the LGBTQ community and to the community in general. And also, they're not the kind of house that we have developed and tried to be. We've tried to be a house of inclusiveness. We don't get along. I mean, that's not a surprise, but that's okay. That's a good thing. But we need to respect each other and do the best we can for the people of Rhode Island, and this doesn't help. This has become a distraction this week. We hope to, resolve it, and then we have to move on. We have very serious and important issues before us. We have a state budget where the revenue numbers are going down. We have LIBOR, a very important issue with the Policeman's Bill of Rights, LIBOR as they call it, the acronym. We have lots of important issues to deal with for us. We have guns, we have abortion, we have a whole host of legislative priorities. We have some stuff going on with IGT and Twin River regarding iGaming, sports betting. All of these things mean revenue to the cities and states. We have people in Rhode Island who are hurting. We need to address these issues.
You're going to run into, so we'll leave the Quattrocchi thing there and figure out next week on the radio how to discuss that and see what you'll be doing. By the way, do you expect a decision? We're taping on Thursday. As people have seen this, have you already decided, or are you waiting until next week?
I haven't decided, but I hope to decide today and have action today. That's what the hope
all right.
process.
So as you see the television show, you're not hearing what the decision will be. Do you know what the decision's going to be?
I do not know.
Okay.
Okay.
If you did, you could tell me. 'cause
I know,
no
but
one's gonna see it till
I have
then.
an idea of where I want to
Right.
go, but I want to share it with my colleagues first.
The way you knocked off those bullet points requires you to be here every week for the next 6 weeks. No, seriously,
Yes, it
because
does.
these are important matters. And as you tick them off, the EACA is the abortion question, which is whether or not the welfare, I should say, the state employees and the Medicaid recipients will
Get coverage.
Will be coverage. You're leaning to support to make that would be a historic change.
Yes.
For the state legislature.
Yes,
You're leaning in that direction?
Yes, I am, and based on the testimony we had at the hearing.
And as far as Leopold is concerned, the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, which is a constant point of contention, we have a case in Pawtucket that just evolved where everyone's going, what in the heck? The guy takes a gun out, he shoots the kid, and he keeps his job. You know what? He's not guilty. Will he keep his job? What is the discussion going on? You want to see some what? Transparency there?
Some reform.
Meaning
Obviously,
more
transparent.
officers deciding, more players on a committee to decide a fate?
Yeah, a lot of issues. I'll tell you some of the main issues. So we have several different versions of bills that do that. All of them are reform that I'm aware of. There could be more bills that come in that could actually talk about a repeal, but I am for a reform. I've said that publicly. I'm committed to that. We have bills that I think we need to increase the days from suspension from 2 to a significantly higher number. We need to be transparent about it so that when a police chief takes action against a policeman or policewoman, that he's able to discuss it. Right now, he's not able to discuss it.
Management too.
Yeah, and the makeup of the actual board that makes a decision needs to change. It cannot be just all policemen, in my opinion.
We only have a half a minute or so here. The financial culture is going to change again. COVID money is running out. It's back.
COVID money's gone.
Yeah, well, you're still holding on to
May 9th.
planning of the money.
Yeah, May 9th to May 11th, it's gone. That's the last day we can actually be in a state of emergency,
Right.
which qualifies us for enhanced reimbursements
So
from the
it's
federal
like the
government.
old days.
That's right.
You have to actually only spend what we raise here.
Yeah, and our revenue
Along with the regular
revenue
state and
numbers are
federal
going
money.
down, and our interest rates are going up. And you see what happened in Pawtucket today. These significant bumps in
Meaning the soccer stadium.
The soccer stadium has been paused or put on hold. These significant bumps in the raising of the interest rate have a dramatic consequence on state revenue for our budget.
Well, look, I'm glad you're here to facilitate it. You've got a steady hand on the legislature, and glad you're not jumping ship.
Thank you.
Even though I know it tugs at you because you could have been a contender. All right, final word, we'll come back. This week we'll examine Coach Cooley's exit and what it means, not just for basketball, but for the economy, all of that. See you on the radio, 36 and WPRI. Thanks for tuning in.